The unification of the exchange rate and other interventions by CBN are directives initiated to diversify the economy beyond oil and gas into telecommunications, manufacturing, real estate, and agriculture. And these policy interventions have been described by experts as key instruments needed to shape Nigeria's foreign exchange market and investment drive of the federal government. However, experts say there is need to address challenges of liquidity in the foreign exchange market to help aid economic diversification and investment drive of the federal government. Let's put this into perspective. I'm being joined by Mr. Babajide Atolagbe. He's a portfolio manager with Afri Invest West Africa. Good afternoon. It's good to see you, Babajide.
Hi, good afternoon, Tunde. Thank you for having me.
Beautiful stuff. I'd like to start from where the president stopped with regards to his speech in Berlin. I'd like us to take it from that point. Now, how open, you are a portfolio manager and you understand all of these issues, how open to you do you think Nigeria is to investment at this time?
Well, I would say that on paper, we are quite open because if you look at the body language of the current administration, we look at the fact that the president has been visiting different countries and still preaching the same rhetoric that Nigeria is actually open for business. So on paper, on the surface, we're actually open. But if we dig deep into much more sophisticated issues, we find out that there are still some lags and some gaps that need to be addressed immediately to accompany what the president and the entire team has been doing. And in terms of investment, when foreigners look at investment destinations, especially in developing economies, one of the key things they pay attention to is, other than the return, is the risk. And in terms of the risk, they're looking at the liquidity of the market in accordance with other macro risks, right? Let's put macro risk aside because macro risk can be quantified, can be analyzed, and the investor can take decision on the back of that. But the liquidity risk is that risk that am I able to move in my money into this market at this particular time and take it out at this particular time, something we call mobility of capital. And over the years, if you look at where Nigeria has been coming from, that particular trust has not been there because investors keen or worried about the challenges surrounding the FX liquidity. And the FX liquidity is a result of some structural failures, some inconsistent policy that has led to the birth of two different markets, speaking of the official market as well as the parallel market, right? And so if you look at all these key factors, right, you might want to think again that on the surface, we are open for business, but we still have some structural challenges that may appear to foreign investors that, this country is not ready to get on with business.
Structural and bureaucratic issues. Many believe that the ministers could be ready to get rolling, get to business. Of course, government officials too could be. But some say that you need those in the office, now talking about the civil service, to implement some of these things, like staff of the Nigerian Investment Promotion Commission, Export Promotion Council. All of these people need to understand that it is time to hit the ground running. So what do you think can be done to check all the excesses along this line to actually make it easy to do business?
Well, yeah, it's a function of how the head has designed the other structures in terms of implementation, right? One thing we've seen in the market, right, as well as in recent times, is that there is this lack of policy harmonization across different agents of government, right? And when you begin to have different agencies chasing different objectives, you begin to see conflict, and as a result, you don't achieve the desired end. And I'm going to bring it back to the market, right? We understand that the DMO and the CBN they are, part of the government. I mean, to a significant extent. Of course, we understand that the CBN is independent of the government, but at the same time, these two players are critical players in determining the future and then the direction of interest rate in the country, right? And I mean, DMO's, one of the DMO's major objectives is also to help the government to reduce its cost of borrowing, and of course, the CBN is also to use interest rates to achieve its monetary policy objectives. So when you have two different governments, institutions that are working in different angles of the market, you begin to see conflicts across board. And then when you have conflict, institutional investors, foreign investors, and what have you are not really sure of what the direction of the market is. And taking it back to the real sector, speaking about those agencies, how the president and the entire team needs to institutionalize these policies that that the government has been rolling out, right? Since the inauguration speech till now, we've seen key policies being rolled out by the government, and we give them credit for that. But it's one thing to roll out these policies; it's also another to like institutionalize it and to ensure that the field workers are implementing them as they should be. So the onus is on the government to make sure that all of these are well aligned and then they're able to achieve their objective within the stipulated time that they've given themselves.
President Tinubu mentioned that it is firm on policy reforms, and one of it is the FX market, opening up that market to allow free flow of course, FX, even from businesses and all of that. But as we speak today, the dollar to the naira at the other market is above 1,100 naira. I don't know how this comes to you and what you think would happen as we move towards the end of the year. Some are saying this could get worse.
Well, one thing that we are quite certain of, or something we've seen over the years, is that the market will always find its place, right? And when I mean the market simply means where you can find a willing buyer and a willing seller, and then the trade is being executed, right? And the major characteristic of the market is evidently seen in the parallel market, which people refer to as Aboki market, right? The major characteristic of the market is there because there is demand and there is supply. I mean, you can enter that market today and say you want to buy social unit of this currency, and you're getting it at the price, right? And but if you look at the other market, which is the official market, right, liquidity there has been poor. There are piles of demand in that market, but supply is actually limited. And you expect that supply will be limited because, of course, the CBN does not have the buoyant reserve to supply that market adequately, right? So that is a disadvantage to the market. And the second would be that those who are supposed to channeling monies into that market through remittances flow are largely attracted to the parallel market because of the price disparity. I mean, you have Nigerians abroad wanting to send money to Nigeria. They would rather change their money at the parallel market rate because it means much more money and than the official market. So in order for us to close that gap, right? In order for us to close that gap, government needs to make sure that the official market completely reflects market condition. Market condition in the sense buy and sell, like willing buyer, willing seller. And they've been doing that, right? But again, the recommendations that we see is either they want to do the continuous improvement approach or they want to take the radical approach. If they want to do the continuous improvement approach, there are some low-hanging fruit that they can take, that they can do in order to achieve short-term results. And that one of them would be ensuring that food production is consistently increasing, right? Food production is consistently increasing because from trade, you can get in FX from that angle, right? And that's where the government gets the largest FX earning, right? So that has to be resolved. I mean, last time I checked, it was around 1.4 million barrel per day, right? Which is an improvement from 1.1 that we started 2023 with. But don't forget, Nigeria was producing as high as 1.8, 1.9 at some point. So that shortfall is, we're losing out on that. So you can push crude production materially, that will support in terms of the continuous improvement. Again, in terms of continuous improvement, the government can begin to look at short-term borrowings to also serve as some sort of buffers, right? And although that may come at a cost, but it will provide some short-term buffers for the CBN to be able to supply and carry out its daily activities. And then the other one, which is the radical approach. The radical approach is taking if you're looking for a dramatic return in a very, very quick time, you take a radical approach and you have to devalue the currency to reflect the actual state of the market. Speaking of where the demand and the supply is. And in devaluing the currency, you need to make sure that it reflects what the market is. If you look at the two markets that we have now, one is currently trading at 860 levels, which is the CBN market, and then the parallel market is currently trading at 1,100, right? So there's this gap there. And from the fundamentals of economics, we understand fully well that the actual pricing of the naira is in that market in which you can buy and you can sell freely, right? And all of those characteristics, like I mentioned, are in the parallel market. So the CBN, in accordance with the government, need to make sure they align the official exchange rates to capture, or to bring it much more closer to where people are willing to actually sell. And if you do that, one of the first things the government is likely to enjoy is significant remittance flow, right? In 2019, 2018, thereabout, right? Remittances contributed between the range of $18 to $20 billion to Nigeria in 2019, and that's significant, right? If you can channel those funds that are coming in through all those unofficial sources to the official sources, right? The CBN will be able to lay claim to those lost effects that are going into the other markets. So the government needs to find the balance between the continuous improvement in which they've been doing and then the radical approach, because a blend of both will help us achieve what we want to do much more faster.
I see the effects there on the visuals there, and it's like, let's have more of it coming into the country. But let me ask you, Babajide, let's talk about population, Nigeria's population. It seems to be something that attracts investors into this part of the world. They keep saying, a country of more than 200 million people, you can't be making a mistake investing in that kind of country. How is our population impacting us as a country, positively or negatively, in your thoughts, particularly focus of investments, that angle of investments?
Well, population is, population itself is mere number. Of course, numerical advantage because you have much people who can, purchase, who can consume and what have you, right? On that note, you can say it is advantageous to the country. But when you begin to apply some other metrics to it to check the ability of this population to consume, you might now begin to worry and see that, okay, indeed, we have the population, but the population is not, I don't want to use the word poor. Like the population is poor and cannot, necessarily consume. So if you look at that, right, most of all the FMCG companies, bellwether companies that came into Nigeria to set up businesses, right? They came in on the back of Nigeria has a very strong demographic, structure. They have people who can consume and what have you, and of course they established their businesses and they started outrightly well, and they had consistent improvement over time. But as Nigeria began to progress, right, population was also increasing, but per capita income, the ability of this population to consume was moderating. And if you have that kind of situation whereby you have large or enormous number of people and the ability to consume is shrinking and moderating over time, economically they are not offering any real value. Right? Numerically, fine, they have the number, but economically they're not really contributing to the economy. And that's why you see that most FMCG companies, despite the fact that Nigeria is a country that consumes so much, most of them are having thin margins. Their margins are fading out. Somebody might even having to leave the country because the population is there, but the population cannot, afford, basic amenities. They cannot afford, products and services, that are, closer to the cost-effective prices. And that is also part of what is affecting the issue of subsidy, removal of PMS, and what have you. Because when you begin to consider numerical advantage, the masses, this and that, you may begin to have justification to add in subsidy on, fuel and electricity and what have you, just to support them. But if you now look at running a cost-reflective, system whereby every product and services that you're offering to the public is cost-reflective, right? You find out that the average Nigerian cannot necessarily afford basic basic necessities of life, and it is really really sad. And but we understand fully well that the current government is doing quite a lot to make sure that they change that story, and we continue to hope that those issues will begin to become will stay as issues of the past, and we'll have a much more blossom future ahead of us.
Great. Finally, before I let you go, Mr. Babajide, there have been lots of commitments from India to Kenya to Saudi Arabia, now in Germany. MOUs have been signed, pen put to paper. People are signing, crossing the T's and dotting the I's. Agreements are being reached. What more are we to do to follow up all of this? It needs to trickle down. Let it get in, not just on paper. So what should be the next line of move as we move on to the end of the year with regards to actualizing these deals?
Well, I think it's a good start, like you mentioned, because I'm also going to take you back a bit to numbers, right? If you look at Nigeria's capital importation, right, you will see that FDI's proportion to the total capital importation has kind of, almost faded out. Like there's almost nothing there coming from FDI again. Most of the capital we get is coming from foreign portfolio investment, which is equity, bonds, and money markets, right? And those monies are hot monies because they're usually short term and they come at at a high cost at sometimes. So what we need to do is to continue to amplify this mode, amplify this current investment drive through FDI, because when FDI comes, it creates jobs, it helps to build infrastructure, it brings in FX, and then it stays for quite a period of time. So it solves medium to long-term challenges. So in a short while, I'll suggest that we continue to push aggressively to make sure that these FDIs come into Nigeria and they stay in Nigeria, and then rather than going into neighboring countries like Ghana, Togo, and Co, they see Nigeria as an attractive and reliable investment destination for their funds. And one of the ways we can do that is to ensure that our policies are consistent. We tackle macroeconomic issues as it should be, and then investors always want to see that you are operating a completely free market, a free market operation whereby the market is not under the subjectivity of the government or what have you. It's mainly determined by buyers and sellers. So if we're able to tweak all those all those metrics, I'm pretty sure that over the short medium term we'll achieve greatness.
Brilliant stuff there, Mr. Babajide Atolagbe is the portfolio manager, AfriInvest West Africa. Thank you so much for joining the program. We appreciate this.
Thank you.